English step by step, present simple, step 2. So now let's look more carefully, in more detail, at the form of present simple. So we'll start with the negatives. To make the negative, we have to use the auxiliary verb do. Now this is different from many other languages where the negative uses just a negative word before or after the main verb. But here in English we use the helping verb or the auxiliary verb do. So this is sometimes called a helping verb, and we add the negative not to this helping verb. This is then followed by the infinitive of the verb, the main form of the verb. So let's look at examples to see clearly what that means. So I eat, and then we can make the negative I don't eat. So you can see the helping verb is do, and then we add do not, which becomes don't, and then the infinitive is eat. I don't eat. And then it's important to remember the changes that happen with the third person singular. For example, I don't, you don't, we don't, they don't. But then in third person singular, we change it to doesn't. He doesn't. She doesn't. It doesn't. So we can see here, I eat, I don't eat, he doesn't eat. And then I drink, you don't drink, she doesn't drink. And then I forget, they don't forget, the elephant doesn't forget. So the changes with the third person singular again, he doesn't, she doesn't, the elephant doesn't. So let's look at some examples here at the bottom. I don't watch TV is the negative. I watch TV is the what we call the affirmative. You don't listen to me, and the affirmative, you listen to me. Now, in the third example, you can see he doesn't smoke, and then the affirmative is he smokes. Now, in this one, you can see that smoke is the infinitive that we use with the negative, and smokes is the affirmative, and that's not the infinitive, that's the third person present simple. He smokes. And it's the same with the other two. In the first example, I don't watch, watch is the infinitive, and here I watch, watch is the present simple. So it's the same with he doesn't smoke, he smokes. She doesn't care, she cares. So remember, the third person has the S. The weather doesn't change, the weather changes. We don't have enough money, we have enough money. They don't drive, they drive. So the important thing here is that every time we use the negative is followed by the infinitive. It's not followed by present simple form, it's followed by the infinitive. So let's move on to look at more details about form. In this case, we're looking at questions. So to make the questions, we also need this helping verb do. In other tenses of English, we also have other helping verbs like did and have. In this case, we're using do, and we need do to make the negatives and the questions. So as with other question forms in English, we use inversion, changing the order of the words. The verb do is also used with the infinitive in questions. So we're making an inversion with the subject and the helping verb do. Now here, I understand. And then the question, do I? Do I understand? And then in the third person singular, do changes to does. Does he understand? And the next example, she drinks coffee. Do you drink coffee? And then third person singular, does she drink coffee? Next example, he studies English. Do they study English? Does he study English? So there you can see do and does. Do I, does he, do you, does she, do they, does he. So these are all question forms using does and then the infinitives. Now, we often make questions with question words like who, when, where, why, what. And it's the same kind of structure with these different questions with the question words. We use the same does and do inversion with the infinitive. For example, where does he come from? And then the answer would be he comes from Ireland. And you can see in the question we have the infinitive, come. But in the answer we have the present simple, comes. So we have to remember the S at the end of the present simple for third person singular. Next example. What time does the bus usually arrive? It arrives at about 9 a.m. How do you travel? I travel by tram. What does this word mean? It means very good. So you can see this is a very common question. What does this mean? So we have the verb mean and we make the question using the helping verb does. So we always need the helping verb. So let's think more about the meaning and the use of the present simple. We use present simple to refer to the following: habits, routines, frequency, for example, how many, how much, how often, etc. Repeated actions. Okay, examples. Habits. I usually get up early. Present simple. Routines. Example. We have a meeting every Thursday. Next one. Frequency. How often do you go to the gym? Now, in this example, it's a question. So you can see this is actually the infinitive after the helping verb do. And the next one, repeated actions. They go to Spain every summer. So if we look at these two last examples, go in this sentence is the infinitive with do, but go in this sentence is the present simple form for they. Now let's look at some special uses of the present simple. We also use present simple for many verbs which describe how we say things in the present. These are often called reporting verbs, and we'll look at more lessons later on the structures for reporting verbs, but at the moment we're just looking at the verbs rather than the structure of the sentence. So here we have recommend, suggest, advise, apologise, insist. Now, we don't use these verbs in present continuous very often, so practice using them in present simple. For example, I recommend that you see the film. Now, we don't normally say, I am recommending that you see the film. We say, I recommend that you see the film, or I recommend that you read the book, or I recommend that you eat in this restaurant. Suggest is similar. I suggest that you study more, or I suggest that you listen to more English, or I suggest that you read more often. Advise. Now here it's third person, so the doctor advises me to get more exercise. Next one, apologise. We apologise for arriving late. And next one, insist. He insists on paying the bill. So, when you see these verbs, when you hear these verbs, and when you use these verbs, they should normally be in present simple. So this brings us to the end of step 2. So you can move on to the next video, step 3, in which you can do some practice exercises.